Welcome to Bound by Books, a podcast of 5 authors across the genres talking about the one thing we're all bound by, books. Hello, my name is Sherri Hayes, and today I am joined by my fellow co-host, Danielle Bannister. Welcome, Danielle.
Hello. Yes, today we wanted to talk to you about a little tool that most readers and authors maybe might not think about when they're putting a book together. And that is the exciting topic of time management. Right?
Yes.
I mean, writing the book is one thing. It is one hurdle to just get the book down. But kind of a really major part of that process is time management.
Well, you're not only talking about your time management in writing the book, but also marketing the book. Because that's a whole other time management issue.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you have, and a lot of times you're juggling both at the same time for 2 separate books.
Oh,
at least
absolutely,
2 separate books.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you, Danielle, you tend to write like 5 books at the same time.
I do.
How you keep track of that? I have no idea.
Time management.
Yes. We all know you are the planner of the group. I mean, out of the 5 of us, you are like the total planner. I mean, we just to give you all of our listeners a little bit of an insight. Whenever we need to plan something like in the future in our group of 5 authors, everybody looks to Danielle and goes, Danielle, could you please plan that out for us? Could you please put that in the calendar? Because she's on top of it. She is on top of it. Yes. So you have to be to keep 5 books juggling in the air at one time.
Yes. Well, and it's something that I've learned over time. When I first started writing, I literally wrote just the one book. I would start on one project and I did it from start to finish. And it would take me a year to write a book start to finish. And then I could only ever release a book a year. And readers don't like it when you only put out a book a year. They want it. I mean, you've taken a year, right? You've taken a year to write this masterpiece, and somebody reads it in 2 hours, and they're like, "When's the next one coming out?"
I know.
Next year.
I know. I'm like, I get that all the time. I'll be like, one time, I can't even remember which book it was, but I released this book, and of course, it dropped on Amazon at like, I don't know, midnight, 2, 3 o'clock, something like that. Because I actually think this was before they were allowing independent authors to do pre-orders.
Oh, probably.
So, yeah, I've been publishing for a while. So have you. Yep. We remember those times.
We do.
Long times ago when we couldn't do some stuff that we can do now. But I believe it dropped at like 2 or 3 in the morning. And of course, I was asleep.
Sure.
But I woke up, and at 6 a.m., one of my readers had posted on my Facebook page that they had finished the book. And I'm like, what do you mean you finished the book?
Yeah.
And I was like, you finished it? And she's like, oh yeah, it got on my Kindle at like 3 a.m., but I decided to stay up and read it, and I got it done in like 2.5 hours. And
when's the next one coming?
Yeah. It only took me like 6 months to write that. So get back to me.
Exactly. There's there's the writing of it for one thing, but then you've got to edit it, and then you've got to format it, and there's a lot of pieces. It takes some time. So the only way that I could actually release more than one title in a year was that I had to be working on several titles at once. So I'll be writing a first draft of one book, and I'll be in a second draft of another, and maybe a 4th draft of another. So everything is sort of moving along at different clicks, so that there's one that's always nearing release and one that's just beginning. So that's sort of how I can get away with it.
Now that's another difference, I think, between the 2 of us. A big difference is that not only are you a plotter and I am a total pantser, like out of our entire, we're like, Danielle and I are the 2 extremes of our group. Okay. she is like the ultimate planner, and I am the ultimate not planner. I mean, she plans out her books. She does. How many drafts do you do? 5 drafts?
I do like 4 or 5 drafts depending on the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I don't. I actually.
I know you're like one draft and then it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I edit as I go. And occasionally once I'm finished, I may go back and skim through certain sections.
Yep.
And tweak certain scenes. However, I do not do multiple drafts. My editor gets,
Well, and some writers can do that. Some writers can come out with the content as how they want it the first time around. I produce word vomit the first time around. So I can't produce that first draft because it's crap.
So basically when you write, you are an overwriter. So you're paring down in your drafts. Is that what I'm kind of getting?
What I'll write is mostly dialogue in my first drafts, mostly how the characters are interacting, because that's what I'm really focused on. I want to know how the characters are interacting with each other. So I write it almost like a play at first, and then in subsequent drafts,
wonder why that is.
And then in later drafts, I'll start going, okay, maybe we need to start adding some scenery or some clothing, or what else is in this scene beside these 2 people. And then it's word crafting. It's, yeah, this sentence was okay, but can I make it stronger? Have I used this word a plethora of times? Could I maybe change it with something else? So those 3rd and 4th drafts, those are like the nitpicky things. Like, can I make the sentences stronger? Can I make the paragraph stronger? It's not necessarily putting in plot details at that point. It's the fine tuning of things, which I could continue to do that forever, but at some point you get so sick of your book that you have to go, all right, it's either going in the trash or it's going to the editor. And that's when at least that's when I know it's ready to go to the editor, is when I hate the book. I'm done.
It's doing what it's doing.
You take it. I'm done.
Yeah. See, how I do it normally is I write the thing and I edit as I go. So I write it. And then once that chapter is done, I will usually stop writing for the day. And then the next time I pick up my book and start working on it, which isn't always the next day because my life is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I will usually go back and reread the chapter that I wrote previously, and I will make any type of tweaks or adjustments at that point, especially if I did make any like repetitious words or things like that. I'll switch some structures around. But after that, I rarely will go back and look at that chapter ever again. Yeah, it's done.
And that's a valid way to approach it. I'm not saying that one approach is right and one approach is, every writer approaches it a little bit differently. Yeah. My first drafts I tend not to edit. I tend to just go. The gas is on. And then the second draft is where I have to fix all of my messes. I've tried sort of editing as I go, and then I'll just end up re-editing the first 3 chapters over and over again. And I can't get past it. So I can't get out of my own way. And how can I edit something if I don't know quite how it's going to end? So for me, for the way my brain works, is that I have to see the whole story before I can go back and tweak the things. But again, every author is different in how they work. So you mentioned the difference between pantsing and plotting. And for those who might not know what pantsing is basically you write by the seat of your pants. You have no idea where you're going. You sit in the chair and you just start to write. And that's how I started writing. I didn't know anything about plotting when I first started writing. I wrote probably 4 or 5 books that way without. So I understand how pantsing works. I've done it. The cleanup for me was the cleanup drafts were really hard because I was meandering. I didn't have a path. I'm the sort of driver who would get lost without a map. So for me, that's what plotting is for me. It's like, okay, here's the map.
It's your road map.
Yeah. It's my road map. I can kind of go off track, but I know where I need to go. So it's just a different thing.
Yeah, and see, I'm completely the opposite because when I actually had to convince my high school English teacher to allow me to write a paper without writing the plot, outline first.
Oh,
because
you are the envy of every student. No student has ever gotten away with that in the history of time.
Well, I told her, I said it because I knew myself well enough. I mean, this is high school. This is not, junior high or elementary school. Okay. I'd written a few papers since,
she had got a sense of your style.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I found was because usually in school, you would have to write the outline, you'd have to turn that in, you would get graded on that, they would return that to you with their notes, and then you would write the paper off of a thing. So, but what I would find is that my final paper had nothing to do with the outline. The way my brain would work when I was outlining was not the same way my brain worked when I was writing the paper. And it didn't matter if it was a research paper or if it was a creative writing paper. Right. It just, my brain did not, it was like it was almost like two different sections of my brain were, one was writing the outline and one was writing the paper. And so I finally explained this to her. I said, go back and look at my previous work. My outlines do not match my papers. They don't, because I can start off all well and good trying to follow the outline that I wrote. Right. And I always, by the first couple of chapters, I'm off in a completely different direction. Right. And it's not like it doesn't make sense, but
you need to be able to meander. Right. And that's absolutely true for some writers. It's a completely unique story. In terms of I'm curious because maybe as somebody who meanders, this is less of an issue, but I have a feeling it's not. Going back to sort of that time management piece, the time management of a story really kicks in like the second you get a story idea, because you have to figure out, great idea pops into your head. You have to stop and think, do I have time to write this story given my current releases that I'm already working on? And if I do have the time, when do I have the time? Mm-hmm. Now, as somebody who meanders, do you sort of time out when you're going to write certain stories, or do you sort of just write whenever the inspiration strikes you on whatever project might strike you?
I just typically pick a project and I barrel through it. I don't have multiple projects going at one time. I write one project at a time, mainly because for me, when I'm writing, it's like I'm sitting down, watching the movie play in my head and typing it down on a page. So I can't have 5 different movies going on in my head with 5 different plot lines, especially since I don't know typically what's going to happen that far in advance. Right. Like I may know that somewhere in the story, I want the characters to, do X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. But I have no idea when that's going to be. I couldn't tell you if that's going to be a chapter ahead of where I'm at, or if it's going to be 10 chapters ahead. Right. And it's always a possibility that it just won't work for the story by the time I get to a point, and it doesn't. I mean, my Finding Anna series is a perfect example of that, because for those who've been following me for a really long time, they'll know that my Finding Anna series was only ever supposed to, well, I shouldn't say it was only supposed to be 4 books, but it was supposed to end after the 4th book. When I started the story, I had no idea. I knew it was going to be multiple books, but I did not know how many books it was going to be. But by the time I got to the end of the 3rd book, I was like, okay, I can wrap this up in one more book. It's probably going to be a long book, but I can wrap this up in one more book. Mm-hmm. And it was a long book. It was 147,000 words. huge book. And
Right.
for those of you who are not familiar with romance titles, the average romance book is usually between 60 and 80,000 words. So this was 147.
That's a big romance, honey.
Big. So
size matters.
It does. And okay.
I'm making her choke on her own spit. That is the raw talent.
Goodness. So, and you'd be surprised. I am surprisingly easy to embarrass given what I write.
Given what you write, yeah, that
given
is,
what
yeah.
I write, I am surprisingly able to, and I am like, for those of you who are listening on the podcast and not watching on YouTube, I am about as white can get. Okay. I used to get made fun of in school, in elementary school, because I was so pale. So when I blush, you know it.
You know it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, when I wrote my Finding in a series, it was supposed to end with the 4th book. So I knew at the end of book 3 that I should be able to wrap it up. However, I did not know how the story was going to end until about 3/4 of the way through the 4th book. So I had no idea.
Yeah.
And of course, that went all out the window because after I finished that book, I had reader after reader after reader begging me to write more, which almost 2 years ago now, I did release the 5th book in the series. So I got rid of I actually took the epilogue out of the 4th book.
And there's a danger in an epilogue, ladies and gentlemen. I know that sometimes readers really love an epilogue in a story because they love to have the story tied up nice and neat. They like to know that their characters are happy ever after. But what that does is it kills the story. That's it. You're done. There's no more story to be had. You have wrapped that up so that now the author cannot go back and easily create more story for you. So when you get an epilogue, that usually means there ain't no more. So be careful what you wish for. Continue.
Right. No, that's okay. So anyway, because with that epilogue, I had jumped ahead 5 years. So I had done 4 years. It was 5 years since the beginning of the series.
Right.
And so I had to take it out because I'm like, I don't want to jump ahead 5 years. And because in that epilogue, I had so much information, so many things had happened. And I was like, if I'm going to continue this series, oh my goodness, I can't talk.
Yeah, you're giving away all the plot in this epilogue. You can't write anymore because you've given it away.
Exactly. So I had to get rid of the epilogue in order to think. So I have actually had a couple of people tell me, like, I was a little confused with change because it doesn't matter, it doesn't fit, but it does. It's just, it happens before the epilogue.
Right. Welcome to writer mistakes when we go, crap, we shouldn't have done that thing.
Well, again, though, I had every intention of it being done and moving on, but readers wanted more.
Yeah. The readers sometimes,
and it was kind of, you and Tina kind of touched on that a little bit in your episode last week.
Yeah. That
where, readers really do have a lot more power than they really they think they do sometimes.
Yeah,
because
they do.
They can, if there is enough reader interest in continuing a storyline or exploring a storyline, an author or writer, whether it be in books or TV or in movies, is compelled to actually follow what the readers want. I mean, Tina, she started her writing her reverse harem story because of reader interest. The whole reason I got into writing, which was with Prison Break and them killing off a character, readers or watchers, I should say, were up in arms because they killed off this character and they ended up bringing her back. Right. They pretended like her death was didn't really happen, that it was a setup, a conspiracy type thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, readers do have a lot of influence. And again, I had no plans to write anymore in my Finding in a series. As far as I was concerned, Stefan and Brianna's story was done. And now luckily I didn't wrap things up completely with change, because I now have readers asking me if there's going to be a sixth book. So there will most likely be a sixth book.
There it is. And that's a kind of an important thing to lift up too, is that if there's a series of books that you like, it's important not to wait until the series is complete to start reading them. Because if an author is like writing a series and nobody reads them because they're waiting for it to be done, the writer is going, oh, nobody likes this series, nobody's reading it, I guess I'll wrap it up. And so you've essentially killed a series that you might have really enjoyed, because so it's I do it though too though with like Netflix shows and stuff. There are shows I'm like, oh, I want to wait until it's all out, but then if there's not enough support for the show gets canceled. So it's we have to be careful in that way.
And the thing is with books, it's almost even more so, because with indie publishing, with self-publishing, if there's not enough people buying the books and reading the earlier books in the series, it costs self-published authors out of their own pocket to edit and for book covers and marketing and all of that. But it also, if you're with a publisher, it costs them that same money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you're self-published, you do have to look at it as a business and as a cost benefit analysis. So if you're, I don't know many, there are some authors that are just doing this as a hobby.
Right.
They're just doing it because they enjoy it. But most authors are hoping to be able to make a living at it at some point.
Or at least make back their costs of what goes into the book. And if they're not making back what they put into it, the author can afford to keep producing the work that you love. So it's important.
Exactly.
Read and buy.
Support.
Read and buy, not pirate sites, because authors don't see a red cent from a pirated site. We see nothing of that. And so we can't pay our editors, we can't pay our cover designers, we can't pay formatters, we can't write more books. So it's very important to do that. We got wildly off topic there, but
we got so off topic. Yes.
I'm going to steer us back as the planner of the group. We were talking about time management, and you've been in this business probably about as long as I have, a long time. So we've had a long time to sort of figure out things that work in terms of time management for us personally and things that just do nothing for us. So I want to know, what is your best time management strategy or skill that you have learned for yourself over the years? What works best for you?
Okay, so this is actually something that is fairly recent, because I have tried so many different options over the years, because I'm not a planner. So it's very, very difficult for me to get too far in the weeds and plan too far ahead. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So first of all, I am a paper planner girl. Digital planners do not work for me.
I'm the same. I like to write it down.
It's not only just writing it down. I like to check it off.
Yes.
I like to be able to put that nice little check mark right beside the task and be able to do that. So that's the first thing. I am a paper planner girl, but it doesn't really matter if you are a digital planner person. More power to you. Find what works for you. It doesn't matter. But the other thing that I was recently watching a YouTuber called, I believe her name is the Minimal Mom. I think she's a minimalist type thing, which had nothing to do with this particular episode and how I found her. She was talking about planning and about getting things done and all of that stuff. And one of the things that she advocated for, and I've been trying out, and it seems to be working very, very well, is she said to pick 3 tasks per day that you want to get done above anything else. Just 3. Don't pick more than 3, just 3. And I amazingly have found that most days I am able to get those 3 things done. Now, there have
All
been
achievable
occasions,
goals.
right? There have been occasions where I've only gotten 2, but still, I've gotten 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
And that's better than what I would have probably gotten things. So
Yeah.
she advocated making a kind of a catch-all list. So just making a huge list of everything you need to get done, and you can add to it as things come up.
Sure.
And then at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, whichever works for you, if you do your planning a day ahead or not. I do my planning. I'll sit down the night before and I make all my things for the next day, because my life is so crazy that if I plan too far ahead, it just goes out the window anyway.
Right.
So I sit down in the evening and plan out my next day as far as picking my 3. And I go through my huge list and I'm like, okay, what are my priorities for tomorrow? Like, is there something that has a time, is in a time crunch,
Sure.
Is something that I need to get done tomorrow or this week or something like that? Or is there something else that I need to, that can be pushed off or just worked in? It works really well. And plus I love to-do lists. I'm a big to-do list person.
I love a to-do list.
I think it's that marking that off. And I am also an advocate, when you make your to-do lists, be as specific as possible. Do not make this huge to-do of like clean my office. No. Make it smaller, achievable goals. I try to keep my tasks down to 15-minute increments. Because now, there are a few occasions that can't work.
Right.
Writing in 15-minute increments doesn't usually work.
Right.
But if it's something to do with marketing or non-actual physical writing, I try to keep those tasks down to 15 minutes or less, because again, my life is crazy and I can't guarantee that I'm going to have a solid hour to do anything. Just getting a solid hour in to do writing in a day is challenging enough, but but working everything around. And it's amazing though, if you just pick 3 tasks every day that you want to tackle, how much you can actually get accomplished.
It's good to start small. Yeah.
It really is. So what about you? What are some of your time management tips?
Well, I guess the thing that works the best for me, the way that I can write 5 different projects at once, is I've over the years learned how to look sort of at like a 5-year goal, like a 5-year sort of release plan, and go, okay, these are the stories that I want to release. I know that maybe I want to release 3 things in a year, maybe. I might not know what they are yet, but I might know, what, I haven't written a young adult in a while, so that's probably due to come or whatever. So just doing like a 12-month plan 5 times for each year, and then working backwards from that and going, okay, what's closest to being ready? That one can release first, and then working backwards, finding a release month, and then going, okay, 3 months from there, I need to book my editor. 4 months from that day, I need to book my, cover designer, and just sort of working backwards from a release date instead of working from the start of the story to where it ends. If you work backwards from when the date is that you want to release, you have a better lineup of where things are, and you can plan out smarter of when things need to be done, instead of going, oh crap, I didn't book the editor and it's supposed to be a cover reveal next month. So that's something that took me a long time, was like the benefit of that wide lens, and then just from that narrowing it down to achievable daily tasks, going from the monthly
that's
goals
actually
to the daily goals.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I think that's a really smart way of looking at it, of working backwards. Because I have seen so many authors fall into the trap of getting the book done and then, oh my goodness, my editor can't get me in. I need an editor. I need to find somebody. And then they're trying to squeeze this editors edit into like a week.
Yeah,
And
you're getting an editor job that's maybe not the best that it could be, or you're working with somebody that you haven't vetted, and
yeah. So working backwards and and allowing yourself a little bit of flexibility. Don't.
Yeah.
Again, the other thing I've seen a lot of authors do, and these are some of these are newer authors and some of them are veteran authors, and some veteran authors do it and they know what they're doing. They do it to themselves, I think almost intentionally.
Right.
But they give themselves such a narrow window.
Some people really need an intense deadline. That would cause me so much anxiety. But some people love a deadline, and that's how they can get their most stuff done. I get it, but I couldn't do that. Some people will book the editor and go, okay, I'm going to write the book the week before it's due.
Yes, I do. There was an author that I knew, and she would write a book in 2 weeks. She would write for 10 hours a day, 2 weeks straight.
I can't do it.
I was like,
that's too much braining. My brain hurts.
Do you do that?
My brain hurts. That's painful.
That's what I don't understand. I was like, because to me, it's such a creative, and again, I assume, I mean, you can tell me because you're a plotter, but I always assumed it's because I'm a pantser and I am coming up with a story on the spot. So it's a lot of creative energy going into that. And after an hour or two, I'm toast, drained.
Yeah.
I just need a break. Same. I could not imagine writing for 10 hours straight. That just, and for 2 weeks, for 14 days doing that.
Right. Yeah, and the type of plotting I do isn't like the intense like outlining and stuff. I basically have beats that I typically will hit in a story, and I follow that. So I look, it'd be like, oh, okay, this is the midpoint. This is when certain things will happen in my story. I don't know necessarily what they are, but I know that they need to happen. So I guess I'm maybe like a hybrid of a pantser or plotter. Like I know that, okay, all right, this is generally what needs to happen here, but I don't know how I'm going to get there yet. And what I will do is once I've written it in the story, I will jot down a shorthand. In every book that I write, I have like a journal that has the outline in it that tells me what happened, so that when I'm going back and doing revisions, I'll be like, oh, did I actually write that they did that? Or what day did I say that they did that, or whatever? And so this is a way to help my brain remember the things that I wrote. And it helps. It's really great in writing a synopsis after, if you've ever had to written a synopsis, which is the whole summary of a story. This is essentially you're writing yourself a synopsis as you go. So that's helped immensely just with synopsis writing. Not necessarily the back jacket of a book. It's a completely different beast. It's hard to sum up an entire novel.
See, I'm good at the back jacket.
Yes, you are. I'm not so good at it. I'm not so good at it.
That is probably what that is. I don't know why it is.
Your special skill. You should put it on your resume.
I actually find it fun. Don't ask me why, but I think it's fun. You
officially are the blurb writer for everybody in our marketing group. So.
I know I am. Everybody's like,
you are.
Everybody's like,
give
here's my blurb.
I'm the planner of the group, and you are the blurb writer. We all have our own special skills in our group.
It really, really, really is. So
we talked about the best thing about time management. What is sort of the worst thing time management wise, that any advice that you've been given that you've tried and go, you know what, this sucks, I hate it? Has there been anything?
Worst time management. I've been given a lot of bad time management advice. That's what I'm trying to see. Right. What would be the worst?
Or maybe just something that didn't work for you. It might be great for somebody else.
First of all, plotting don't work for me. So and
that is a time management skill. If you can plot, in theory, it's supposed to help with your time management.
Right. One of the other things I would say is basically doing your planner in a like timed way. So like at 9 o'clock, I'm doing this. At 10 o'clock, I'm doing this. At, again, it doesn't work for me because my life is too incredibly crazy. And I know I'm saying that a lot. For the listeners who do not know and don't follow me on my my reader group, especially because they know a little, I talk to them, I guess, a little bit more, or my newsletter. But my husband and I actually own and run a woodworking business. So
you are very busy.
Yes. So I not only deal with the writing stuff, but I also deal with clients for that, and I also deal with I actually go out in my husband's wood shop and help him build projects. So I am constantly going in and out and back and forth, doing multiple responsibilities for multiple businesses at the same time.
Yeah.
So for me, that's why to-do lists work so much better, because I can just say, okay, today I want to get all these things. You know, this is my goal. I mean, I've got these 3 top
and you're not
priorities.
Constrained by, oh, it's 9:30 and I said I was going to do this at 8. I'm a failure.
Right. I get so much more done if I can just, because the thing is sometimes I may think that it's going to take me a half hour to do something, and it may take me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Or I may think it's going to take me 15 minutes to do something, and it takes me an hour.
Exactly.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't have a time in my planner either. I refuse to have planners that have times. Don't box me in, planner.
Oh, it actually, even the planner I have, okay. So the planner I had, because I have tried several planners over the years.
Same.
And the most common planners that I have found are, they do give you the entire week on one page, or they break the week up onto 2 pages.
Yeah.
Okay. That does not work for me.
You need a day at a time?
I need a day. I actually had to special order a planner.
I'm telling you, there's a market for that.
Because I couldn't find it in the stores. I had to special order this planner to do a day at a time, because for me, that works best. So again, bad planner advice, in my opinion, was having the small things, because I think a lot of people aren't putting their to-do lists out. They're doing those kind of on separate sheets of paper. Whereas for me, I need one place where everything is consolidated.
Everything lives in one place. Yeah.
I need to know, because this way, if I have an appointment that has a specific time, I can write down that specific time on that planner, and then I can work my to-do list around the planner.
And so some people like to only see the day's task. They don't want to see the rest of the week. They don't want to stress about what's happening next week. They only want to see, this is what I need to do today. I get it.
Well, again, though, because it goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier, because my days change so much, and so I can't really plan more than a day ahead.
Right.
So for me to see the whole week is completely useless.
Yeah.
Absolutely useless. I mean, if I need to glance and see what I'm doing on Thursday, I can, flip a couple pages and see what I'm doing on Thursday.
Right.
But it doesn't. That's why
you write in pencil, so you can erase it. I never put anything in ink in my planner. It's all pencil.
See, I do write it in ink, but again, I only do it.
Some people do that.
But again, I only typically do a day ahead of time, unless it's an actual physical appointment, like a doctor's appointment or a vet's appointment or something like that.
Right.
Those are the only things that get time things in mind.
Sure.
So what about you? What's the worst time management advice you've ever gotten?
It's not a bad time management advice. It works really well for a lot of people. It just does not work for me. I cannot do a daily word count. I just cannot do a word count. It stresses me out. It makes me anxious. Every time NaNoWriMo comes around, it is the most stress I am ever at as a writer, because it is word-based factored, and it's I can't, it's too much pressure. I want to just be able to write the chapter goal that I've set for myself, or whatever I've set for myself. So a word count goal, it's huge for a lot of people. A lot of people will base how successful their writing day was based on their word count. For me, did I get my chapter done? If I got my chapter done or started or something, I'm good.
Yeah. See, I like word count goals, but I'm not married to them.
Yeah.
You know, I may say, I want to try to write 1,000 words today, or I may try to, you know, I want to try to write, because I don't know how big are your chapters typically?
Anywhere about 2,000, probably 2 to 3,000, depending on the genre. But yeah, if it's a novella, it's a little shorter. It's 1,500 if it's a novella.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
about
Okay,
2,000 or so.
All right. My chapters usually are right around 3,000.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends. Fantasy is going to be a little bit bigger. Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of times I will divide when I would sit down to do word count goals, I'll divide it into two. So my word count goal will be 1,500 words. I'll get, because I typically with books will switch off half the chapter will be in the heroine's point of view and half the chapter will be in the hero's point of view. So if I sit down and do like, okay, my word count goal is 1,500 words. Basically what I'm saying is my goal is to finish the section for that character that in that set down. So that's usually how I try to shoot for it. But again, you know, that usually takes me an hour to an hour and a half if I'm in a really good zone with all my self-editing. So so yeah, you know, sometimes that doesn't always happen because, you know, things get in the way or I get called away. But so, well, we kind of went down several rabbit holes today, didn't we?
We did.
We always do that.
We do. Well, it's this is part of being a writer. We're like, oh, shiny thing, let's go there.
Very true.
We meander. Even the best planners meander. I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll have to wrap up for the day. We touched about this a little bit at the start, but a huge part of being a writer, whether you're indie, whether you're published, is the marketing factor of a story. So it's not enough to just write it, get it edited. You've got to carve out the time to market it. Now, do you carve out a certain set amount of weeks that you market it, or is it just I'll throw up a post when I think about it? How intentional are you, I guess, how intentionally are you when you're marketing a release? Is it strategic, or is it when I think about it?
I've gotten more intentional about it the longer I've been doing this. When I first started publishing, I was with a publisher, and of course they were very intentional about it. Then when I got my rights back, I kind of winged it for, a few releases, and I found I really didn't like that. Like, I mean, I was just, I was figuring, well, I just kind of wing my writing, not really, but I'm a pantser, so I just kind of go with the flow and just put things out there as far as the writing goes, and then it goes pretty well, but not so much with the marketing. I mean, I've really plan, and my kind of sweet spot for that plan is I found is about 4 months.
Yeah.
So, because by the time that 4 months gives you plenty of time to have it edited, to do your cover reveal, to get all of your ducks in a row for your art team and your
it's so much work, y'all.
Your advertising and all that stuff. Yeah.
There is a whole other side that a reader might not have any idea about. But yeah, I would say probably 4 or 5 months is about how long you've got to start. You've got to start thinking about releasing a book that may not be back from the editor yet, that may not have a cover yet. You have to start thinking about, what is your release plan going to be? What is your strategy going to be? Are you going to run ads? How much money are you going to set aside? How much money do you have to set aside?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
It's a whole thing.
And release days are huge portions of that. As you were saying earlier, you work your way back. Well, I don't work my way back. I try to get the book done or close to done before I'm even looking at what my release day is. But then you have to, in this same time management situation, I have to go, okay, I want to release it in about 4 months.
Yep.
So what release day is going to be good? Because as you know, not all release days are created equal. You do not want to, if any newbie authors are listening, do not release on a holiday. Whatever you do.
No, I don't care if it's a Christmas book. Don't do it.
Release on a
don't
holiday.
do it. Yeah.
That is, but I mean, things like that where, you know, and there's certain holidays that even expand beyond the actual day itself. I mean, Thanksgiving, anytime literally that week of Thanksgiving, not a good day to release. Christmas, there's about 2 weeks in there. Don't release there.
Nobody's thinking about books.
What it is.
Nobody's thinking about books at that point. Yeah.
No, I mean, you know, there's just so much, so many little, you know, little
that you have to carve out time for. You can't just go, oh, my book is releasing tomorrow, and not have had a plan in mind. You have got to plan for it, and that comes down to time. Yeah, it's important. It's an important part. Well,
it really is.
I think that is about all we have time for today. If you want to learn more about either of us or the other authors that are a part of our podcast, just go to boundbybookspodcast.com. You can find out more about all of us there, and be sure to join us next week as we talk more about books and the things we love in Bound by Books. See you next time.
Bye.
Wait! Before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on our website, boundbybookspodcast.com.